The hidden cost of letting your impulses run your life. Let me take you back to a moment that almost cost me everything. It was 2 a.m. I was standing outside in the freezing cold, staring at the shattered glass of my apartment door, breathing so hard it felt like my lungs might burst. My hands were trembling, not from the weather, but from the aftermath of something I couldn't take back. I had just punched through the glass in a blind rage. All because of a text message. One message, one impulsive reaction, one moment of losing control. That's all it took for me to nearly bleed out in a hospital that night. That's the hidden cost of letting your impulses run your life. And here's the thing. You've probably felt that same fire. That sudden urge to say something brutally honest. To quit your job on the spot. To lash out at a loved one. To eat what you know will make you feel worse after. Or to chase something. Money, pleasure, revenge. Because in that moment, it feels right. It feels urgent. It feels deserved. But it's all a lie. And today, we're going to expose that lie. Because this isn't just a story about me losing my temper. This is about you, and the thousands of tiny impulses you give in to every single day without realizing they're draining your peace, stealing your clarity, and hijacking the life you were meant to live. But what if I told you that Stoic philosophy holds the exact blueprint for reclaiming that power? That by the end of this video, you'll not only see your impulses for what they are, but you'll also learn how to control them, weaponize them, and finally live life on your terms. And to do that, we need to start with the real battlefield, the mind. Imagine this. You wake up, grab your phone, see a comment online that irritates you. Before your feet even hit the floor, your peace has already been traded for outrage. You check your emails, more demands, more stress. Breakfast? Probably something fast and sugary to feel better. You're late for work, stuck in traffic, snapping at drivers. By 9 a.m., your entire day is dictated not by reason or intention, but by emotion. That's not a fluke, that's a habit, and it's one that millions of people repeat every day. Marcus Aurelius said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." But let's be honest, how many of us actually live that? We think we're free, but if your moods, decisions, and goals change with every passing feeling, you're not free, you're a puppet, and guess what? The strings are inside you. I want you to ask yourself something deeply uncomfortable. How much of your life is a reaction? Not a decision, not a plan, but a reaction? That's what I had to face. Because when I saw that text message that night, I didn't pause, I didn't breathe, I didn't think, I reacted, and in doing so, I gave my peace, my future, over to something completely outside of me. That's the hidden cost. It's not just the moment, it's what it takes from you afterward. You see, every impulse demands a price, and often, it's invisible until it's too late. Think about it. How many relationships have been destroyed by one impulsive lie? Insult, or betrayal? How many careers ended because of one heated moment? How many dreams abandoned because of the discomfort that comes before greatness? The Stoics knew this. That's why they trained, not with swords, but with attention, with presence, with deliberate thought. Seneca wrote, "No man is more unhappy than he who never faces adversity, for he is not permitted to prove himself." And facing adversity doesn't just mean surviving hardship. It means mastering the urge to escape it, to take the easy way, to indulge instead of endure. Now here's where things get interesting. Let's zoom in on one normal day in your life. Every moment, you're being pulled, notifications, cravings, distractions, emotions, every one of them whispers the same thing. React now. Decide fast. Feel first. But what if, just for one day, you didn't? What if you paused every time you wanted to react? Every time someone cut you off in traffic, or sent a nasty text, or offered you something tempting, you said to yourself, "This is a test, let me prove my strength." That's Stoicism in action. It's not about being emotionless. It's about being unshakable. It's not about saying no to all pleasure. It's about choosing long-term peace over short-term gratification. Now let's go deeper. Why are impulses so seductive? Because they feel true. They mimic urgency. They shout, "This is who I am," when in reality, they're just echoes of fear, ego, and unprocessed emotion. I want to tell you a story. There was a man named Cleanthes, poor, unknown, a water carrier by trade. Every day, he hauled water just to afford time to study philosophy at night. People laughed at him, but he kept showing up. Why? Because he refused to be ruled by impulse. His desire to learn, his love of wisdom, was stronger than the shame, fatigue, or temptation to quit. He didn't chase status. He didn't chase comfort. He chased virtue. And that man? He became one of the greatest Stoic thinkers of all time. He showed the world something we've forgotten, that freedom isn't doing whatever you want. Freedom is doing what's right, even when everything inside you screams not to. So, here's the challenge. Look at your life. What are the patterns? Where do you constantly fall for the same traps? Maybe it's food, or anger, or lust, or procrastination, or fear. Now imagine, really imagine, who you would be if you could pause in those moments. If you could breathe, see clearly, choose wisely. That version of you, that's your true self. Everything else? Just noise. The Stoics had a name for that inner clarity. They called it ataraxia, a state of unshakable calm, no matter what's happening around you. And here's the secret, you're not born with it, you train for it. One moment at a time. So the next time your emotions rise, and you want to act without thinking, remember this. You're standing at the edge of a cliff. Your impulse wants to jump. Your wisdom wants to observe. Who wins is up to you. Because the hidden cost of letting your impulses run your life isn't just one bad decision. It's missing out on the life you were meant to live. The one that's calm, powerful, free. The dark game your emotions secretly play with you. Let me tell you a secret the modern world doesn't want you to hear. Your emotions are playing a game with you. A dark, manipulative, high-stakes game. And the most dangerous part? They don't ask your permission to play. They just start moving the pieces. Your attention, your choices, your mood, your future, like a master puppeteer. And unless you become aware of this game, you'll keep losing, over and over, without even knowing why. But the Stoics? They saw this game centuries ago. And they didn't just survive it. They mastered it. Let me show you how. Have you ever noticed how your emotions will convince you of something, only to betray you later? You get angry, so you scream, but later, you regret it. You get anxious, so you run away, but the problem only grows. You feel bored, so you scroll endlessly, but afterward, you feel empty. It's almost as if your emotions promise relief, but always deliver regret. This is not a glitch in the system. This is the system. You see, emotions aren't bad, but when you treat them like commands instead of signals, you give them control over your destiny. And that's where the true cost begins. I learned this lesson the hard way. There was a moment in my life when I nearly walked away from someone I loved deeply. Why? Because I was scared. Things were getting serious, vulnerable, real, and my fear, dressed as logic, told me, run, this isn't safe, you'll lose yourself. So I listened, I pulled away, I built walls, I made cold decisions in the name of protecting myself. And then I watched her walk out of my life. The pain? It didn't hit me right away. Impulse feels good, at first. But when the dust settled, I saw the truth. I hadn't protected myself. I had betrayed myself. I had let a temporary emotion make a permanent decision. And that's the dangerous game our emotions play. They demand action now, knowing full well they won't be the ones paying the price later. Seneca warned us about this. He said, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." Let that sink in. How much of your suffering is real, and how much is manufactured by a mind enslaved to emotion? The Stoics taught that emotion is like a storm. It passes. But if you build your identity around every thunderclap, every gust of wind, then you'll live in chaos even on sunny days. So how do we fight back? How do we win the game? Simple, but not easy. We must learn to pause. Not to suppress emotion, but to observe it, question it, master it. Epictetus said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." So when something triggers you, a text, a failure, a delay, don't rush to react. Instead, ask yourself, is this reaction helping me become who I want to be? Am I choosing this response, or is it choosing me? If I were calm, wise, and grounded, would I act differently? Those questions are like a sword in the arena of impulse. They give you space to choose. Now here's a story you won't forget. There's a tale from ancient Rome about a Stoic philosopher named Musonius Rufus. One day, a student asked him, "How do I resist temptation?" Musonius didn't give a speech. He didn't recite theory. He simply held out his hand, placed a burning coal in his palm, and closed his fingers around it. The student gasped, begging him to drop it. But Musonius held on, just long enough to make his point. Then he dropped it calmly and said, "Pain is real, temptation is real, but endurance is stronger." That's the power we're all born with, but most of us never use. Because we've been trained to chase comfort, to flee discomfort, to let every emotion steer the ship. But the Stoics, they sailed through storms. Not because they didn't feel, but because they chose to stay steady anyway. Think of your impulses like fire. Left uncontrolled, it burns your life to ashes. But channeled, it forges steel. Here's where this gets practical. I want you to try something radical. For the next 24 hours, treat every impulse like a test. Feel the urge to check your phone? Pause, breathe, wait 30 seconds. Feel anger bubbling up? Say nothing. Observe it, let it move through. Feel the craving for sugar, gossip, distraction? Smile, recognize it, let it pass. At first, it'll feel like a war. Your emotions will scream louder than ever. But slowly, you'll start to hear something else. A calm voice beneath the noise. That's your inner Stoic. And once you hear it, you can't unhear it. It says, "You are not your feelings. You are not your fear. You are the master of your mind." Now let's go even deeper. There's a cost to following your impulses. But there's also a reward for mastering them. When you pause before reacting, you gain wisdom. When you endure discomfort, you grow discipline. When you resist temptation, you build freedom. And when you live with intention, you create peace. Peace that doesn't vanish when someone cuts you off. Peace that stays even when life doesn't go your way. Peace that comes not from avoiding chaos, but from standing calm in the center of it. That's what the Stoics trained for. And that's what you can build, starting now. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to begin. One pause. One breath. One choice at a time. Because every moment you resist impulse, you reclaim a piece of your soul. And those pieces? They form the life you were born to live. The one where you're not just surviving your emotions, but mastering them. So I ask you, who would you be if no emotion could control you? What could you achieve if every decision was made with clarity, not chaos? How much peace could you feel if you finally took back the wheel? That's the life Stoicism offers. Not a life without pain, but a life without slavery to it. And in a world addicted to reaction, your calm becomes your superpower. The final test. How to become unshakable when life hits you the hardest. Let me ask you something raw. What happens when life hits you so hard, so unexpectedly, that no amount of planning or positivity can protect you? What do you do when the phone rings, and everything changes? When the business fails, when someone you love walks away, when the doctor says the word you feared the most. What happens then? In that moment, no motivational quote can save you. No morning routine will fix what's breaking inside. All that's left is you. You and the storm. That's the final test. And it's in that space, the silence after the crash, that stoicism reveals its true power. Let me take you to one of the darkest days of my life. I was sitting alone, staring at a letter that confirmed what I dreaded. Everything I had worked for over the last 2 years. Gone. One decision, made by someone else, just like that, the rug was pulled. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think, I felt betrayed, hollow, furious, numb, all at once. And in that chaos, my impulses surged. Slam something, blame someone, escape. I wanted to crawl back into the comfort of outrage, distractions, and self-pity. But then, I remembered something I had read from Epictetus. When something happens, the only thing in your power is your attitude toward it. You can either accept it or resent it. That quote hit me like lightning, because it reminded me of the truth I had forgotten. Life doesn't owe me anything. Control is an illusion, and expecting the world to bend to your plans is the fastest way to suffer. But responding to what happens, that's your kingdom. That's your true power. And in that moment of devastation, I did something radical. I sat still. I didn't fight the pain. I didn't suppress it. I didn't escape it. I watched it. I felt it. I accepted it. And in that fire, I didn't burn. I transformed. Because in that pain, I remembered who I really was. Not a victim, not a puppet, but a philosopher of action. A person who doesn't let tragedy define him, but refines himself through it. And you can do the same. No matter what life throws at you. No matter how big the wave. You can be the rock beneath it. You see, Stoicism isn't about avoiding the storm. It's about becoming the kind of person who cannot be moved by it. Imagine this. Your partner leaves. Your first thought, I'm worthless. But the Stoic thought, this is an opportunity to practice resilience and rebuild my character. You lose your job. Your first thought, I've failed. The Stoic thought, this is a test of creativity, adaptability, and courage. You get sick. You're afraid. Your first thought, why me? But the Stoic responds, because I am strong enough to carry this. That shift, from victim to philosopher, is everything. It's the path to becoming unshakable. And here's the real mind bender. Your impulses, they don't disappear. Even the greatest Stoics still felt anger, fear, lust, grief. But the difference? They didn't obey those feelings. They greeted them like guests, listened, learned, but didn't let them redecorate the house. You and I, we can learn that too. We can build what the Stoics called eudaimonia, a life of deep inner flourishing, not by controlling the world, but by mastering how we show up to it. And the more you practice, the clearer it becomes. You don't need to respond to every insult. You don't need to chase every desire. You don't need to control every outcome. All you need is to stay rooted. To breathe. To choose. To live with virtue. Let me give you one last image. Picture a candle in a dark room. The wind howls. The rain batters the windows. The night is long. But that flame, it stays lit. It doesn't rage against the storm. It doesn't panic. It simply is. Calm, steady, bright. That's who you are at your core. Not your failures, not your fears, not your impulses. You are the flame. And the Stoic life? It's learning how to protect that flame, especially when the storm comes. Because the cost of letting your impulses run your life? It's not just stress. It's not just regret. It's that you never become who you were meant to be. But the reward of mastering them? It's peace that can't be taken. It's power that doesn't shout. It's a life where you walk into any room, any chaos, any challenge, and carry your calm with you. So now I leave you with one final question. When the storm comes, and it always will you be the flame or the fuel? Choose wisely. Because your life doesn't just depend on what happens to you. It depends on how you respond. That's the real hidden cost of letting your impulses run your life. And it's a price you never have to pay again. You just have to start now. One pause. One breath. One act of courage at a time. And when you do, you'll realize what the Stoics knew all along. Freedom is not doing whatever you feel. Freedom is doing what's right, especially when you don't feel like it. Now go be the flame. If this moved you, don't just watch it, live it, share this with someone you care about, and let's build a world full of unshakable souls.